Good morning, guys. Today, since my last video was watch list planning and I showed you all how I come up with my plans, what my analysis is, and whatever, today what I'm going to do is I have my plans already done and I'm going to just review them real quick right now in pre-market, and then I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible so that doesn't take up much of my video. And then once the market opens, I'm gonna pause it after the pre-market, after I show you my plans, and then once the market opens, I'm gonna continue recording and I'm gonna make live commentary on my plans and tell you guys what I think about what's going on. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you didn't watch the last one, you should, because it'll help you understand my reasoning behind my plans today. So first thing, I'm gonna show you my plans, and then we can go from there. So as you can see, I separate them by main and back burner. I reviewed this in the last video too, but it's so that I can prioritize and know exactly what I should be looking for, like more than other stocks, and what's more important, what's less important, and what to keep on, like half an eye on. So first thing, TNXP. I wrote that TNX. Well, I wrote them in different orders because based on like when I found them and how relevant they are to me. So the timestamps are not in order. Anyway, so 8:41 a.m. TNXP gapping down in pre-market. It traded 21.7 million volume yesterday, going from under 50 cents to almost $10 in 2 days. In 2 days. Overextended gap down play today. Potential short morning spike into low 7 to mid 7s with ultimate risk on 8 area till I can add and move risk lower. So what I'm looking for here is, if you look at the daily chart, there's not really much volume traded, and when there is volume, this is such a diluted chart that it's kind of hard to see. But here, this volume day proved as resistance 2 days ago, and then after that we got a huge we got this perk, and then yesterday actually proved that resistance, and today it's gapping down. So in our mind, we know that this resistance played a role in the reason why it rejected here. So we can go ahead and assume that if it spikes today, that resistance is definitely going to play a role into today's action as well. Based on the fact that it had more volume than yesterday, meaning there's still some bag holders that could be in it that didn't sell yet, and now there's newly formed bag holders, because when you look at the volume here, you see the increased volume here in the morning, and this whole consolidation area here, and in the afternoon it had like a one last kind of try, and it failed again. So what I'm looking for here, I want it to spike into 7 area, so like this red-green level, and that's because this is like the lowest consolidation area to start considering, because it bottomed a few times here. It had some volume in the morning. Let's zoom in a little more. So this bottom will play a role in that 7 spike that I'm looking at, and then this whole area here is a congestion zone. So you could see that it had so much trouble in this area. It looks like the most consolidation area throughout the day. So if you start in at 7 area, you need to start in very small, because your ultimate risk is almost $1 a share. So the most ideal thing would be if this thing pops to like 730, 740 area, then it's a more ideal play. You short there, and the risk is 8 area, because it topped in pre-market here. Pre-market doesn't really matter, but it's just it did it so many times. Here it topped again intraday, and this is the first morning spike, and then after that pullback it pushed, and then here again it bottomed in this area, and then here's another resistance that formed, and then here when it cracked again, it was the last bounce to this area, and it couldn't get back over 8. And then when it got back down here, it tried again to get back over 8 and then failed again. So this is telling you 8's a significant area, and that's why I'm looking to risk that. So that's it for TNXP. Let me go to the rest. The rest are back burners because they're not perfect setups, but like they're still worth mentioning and worth looking at for learning experiences for future setups and whatever. So TIK, I said it looks like a potential gap up short. Here it is. Looks like a potential gap up short, up over 100% pre-market. Plan is for potential starter short if it runs about 25% more after market open. If it does not begin failing before 650 area, I'll be cutting losses. This is on my back burner list because it's very low flow and reported earnings on 11/19. I will be just watching and learning and tracking this one for future plays. The float that I have here is 1.7 million, very low. Shares outstanding is 3.2 million, meaning that even if this float is wrong, it's definitely, the float will be less than the shares outstanding because I didn't find any offerings recently with them. I could be wrong, but that's just what I see. And the gap up short play, you want it to be up around 100% is good. And then once it opens, you want that 25% spike, 20 to 25%, and that's where you start in. You don't really have a set risk from the daily chart, but you can use your max dollar risk and the actual spiking percentage of the stock to better increase your odds. I'm not a great trader, and I'm just gonna accept that. And by doing that, I avoid taking non-perfect setups, but I use it to learn for the next play. All right, so ALQA, I said nice chart for potential bounce short starter into low to mid 4 area with ultimate risk on 525 till it proves a lower risk level to add into, but float is very low, so be careful. So that's on ALQA. And let's make this smaller so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So the reason why I like this chart is because you see this day it consolidated near the highs in this 4 area and the high 4s near the and kind of the 5 area, but no consolidation really, it just topped there. So this 4 to 5 area is already a significant area because the daily chart, let's see how much volume traded. The daily chart during that day traded 39.5 million volume, and then yesterday it traded 11.4 million. But this 39.4 million volume, or whatever it was, 39.5 million volume, this day you can see where the volume really congested in this area here, and also here there was a surge in volume. So this is kind of telling you that this during these levels, what volume really means is people are trading it. There's people that are now, after the fact, are holding positions from these levels, and that's why the volume is important. You need to think of how the bag holders from this area with this volume are thinking during each spike. So what they're going to be thinking is, I want to get out for, if they didn't cut losses yet, I want to get out for the smallest loss possible. So when it gets back to this area, they're always inclined to sell. And that's just human nature. Nobody wants a big loss in their account. And if you're trading like holding and hoping, then that's really not a strategy. But that's what creates the strategies that we're learning today. So if today it spikes, I want to see it in the low to mid 4 area, because here's that consolidation. If it gets, I don't even know if it'll get to 4, but if it gets to 4, this is where it's a good idea to take a starter. And you could take a small starter. I don't want to start into this 350 area because then your max risk is way out of like where you want it to be. So in this, the lowest point of the most consolidation area, that's where I like to take a 1/6 or 1/8 starter, whatever you're comfortable with. But never go in full size here because you still don't know if it's going to top where you want it to. But the odds of it topping are pretty high unless the volume today is overwhelming the volume that traded that day. So what that means is if it gets to 4, you take that starter, but if the volume starts increasing way more than that day and then it's coming up to this resistance area, then you just cut it. You don't add. It's not the play anymore because the volume is beginning to overwhelm. So the best entry would be in the 430 area for a small starter. And then if you see it spike more and start failing 480s, 490, or even like test this resistance but starts failing, then when it shows that sign of weakness, that's where you could take, your sign to add into pops and then start covering into dips and whatever. But that's the signal you look for to add when you see the actual rejection. I don't like adding on the front side and keep adding on the way up. Start small. When you see the rejection, that's when you can go in confidently and with the high odds win rate. If you want to go in with the lower odds win rate, then you always need to go smaller size. It'll greatly benefit your trading. So now ASNS formed a base over the last few days, making it less odds to short in this area. If it continues to run for another day or two, then I'll be looking to short an overextended gap down. So what I'm saying here is, on the daily chart, you see that there's no volume really traded in its history. So you want to zoom in more, and then you see that this high volume traded day, okay, it set a resistance, and then it failed on day 2. But now the volume's sort of building up a little bit. It's still less than previous volume, but when you see this higher lows and grinding action and the volume is building up a little on the daily, then you should start to consider that this is not really a short anymore. So also what I saw here is, all right, it had this parabolic spike in the afternoon. It gave a decent spike opportunity for overextended gap down here, but then it based all day and it held this 3 area. And then yesterday it held 3 in the morning and it caused a significant run up throughout the day, holding higher lows and grinding up spikes, choppy. It's just very trappy here. So what I'm seeing here is that this whole area here is less likely to fail. So if you're shorting at like 350, 380, what are you gonna make? You might not even get to cover around 3. You might cover at 315. It's not worth the trade. What the better odds thing is, either when you see a base like this with the low float and volume increasing, you could go for the break and buy it. But again, I don't know if you saw my other videos, but I'm not really buying lately because it's not working for me. So shorting has been working. And what I would look for here is for this to actually break and start running for multiple days. So if it continues to run for another day or two, I'll be looking to short an overextended gap down. So it's this same setup that happened within the day 2, but I don't want it to happen anytime soon. I want it to spike first. So it's going to have, what I would like to see is another day like this or 2 days like this, big run-up days, and then a gap down. That's when you have the confidence to start shorting into the spike, risking into this consolidation area. And if you watched my previous video, I also highlighted this ASNS in pre-market around 8-something a.m. And I was watching it for a potential short into the 4 area. So yeah, it worked out. I use this for my tracking. But what I also see here is that the day after this overextended gap down, it ended up holding a base and running. This could mean that, for me, if I see this more often, this is telling me that overextended gap down, you want to cover on the day you short. But that's just based on if you see multiple patterns start doing this, and that means that the market's kind of turning a little bit, it's changing, and there's always market trends that change. And when the market changes a little bit, you could see different variations in your run-ups. So if you were holding overextended gap down for 3 days and then covering for a 50% profit, that might not be working now anymore. So so that's it for ASNS. It's not a short for me unless it spikes more. Could be a long. I'm not looking to long it. OGEN, it's very low volume, but if it can get a nice overextension on daily, then I'll be more interested. For now, I have no plan, but it's a decent one to keep half an eye on. So this is kind of what I meant when I said you want to keep half an eye on some stocks, because let's see that real quick. All right, OGEN. So why I was looking at this is, let's go to the daily. This is the 1 year, and you can see that it spikes pretty often. There wasn't really volume here. This was a nice spike with volume. Let's go out a little more and see if there's any volume. Nope. So let's go back, zoom in, and you could see during this chart that it had a multi-day run-up, multiple gap-ups, and then when it actually gapped down, it had that morning spike and then just, faded off for the rest of the day. So what you're looking for here is let it get overextended, let it get volume like the volume it had here. Let it set resistance levels. If it gets to these mid-2s, then it has these resistances, but you also want to incorporate the volume that it currently traded, and if that volume's enough to form a solid resistance level that'll like give you a clear-cut exit, that's when you can take this trade. But right now, no trade. The float is low, so it's okay to watch on back burner, but like I don't really expect much from this anytime soon. But if it runs big, then I'll be more interested. So those are my plans right now for pre-market. So I'm going to pause this, and then when the market opens, I'm going to continue. So upon further inspection, I realized that TNXP is actually a reverse split. So it didn't go from 50 cents to almost $10 in 2 days, but it did get a nice run going yesterday, and it still set that heavy volume resistance. So it is still a potential short into the low to mid sevens, but I'm going to take this out of my plan because so it traded 21 million volume yesterday, forming heavy resistance levels intraday. As you can see on the gainers, we have SOLO, it popped up here, but it only has 300,000 volume, so it needs much more volume, but this is something to, well, look at that, it's starting to try to make a move, but this is something to look at just because the flow is low. It's up about 20% pre-market, low priced, and it has a resistance in this area up here with 21.8 million volume, but this type of play, you want to just let it open and then see based on the open, and that's where you start making your plan. But as of now, no play, just a potential watch. So I'm going to throw it here on back burner because so I see it's like around this in my priority of the back burner list. I'm going to go like that. Solo, back burner, let it run, then look to make a short plan. Alright, so I'm going to pause this again. When the market opens, we'll see what's going on. We can see TNXP starting to curl up a little, and looks like it was holding this area here, so we're going to see if this gets tired soon or if it's going to spike enough to short, but I have no shares, sadly, and I'm just gonna have to deal with that, but this is still a good play, I think. So let's see if it can spike enough, but right now not enough volume. Under 100,000. I'm just gonna like pause this, I think, until something gets really good action. Here's TIK. We're looking at, it looks like a potential gap up short, up over 100% pre-market. So starter short plan is 25% more after market open price. So let's see what the open price was. I just checked the candle because it's easier. The open was 525. So 25% over. It needs to run past 525, an extra 25% for a good potential starter. So let's do the calculations real quick. So how you start these calculations is, you see, so if it opened at 5.25, you want to see when is it a good idea to start shorting. So let's see 6.5 if that's a good spot to start shorting. So you put in the price. Let's say this is at 6.5 right now. What are we going to be thinking? So you put in 6.5 and then you subtract the opening price. Oh, let's do that. 6.5 minus opening price, which is 5.25. All right, 5.28, whatever. And yeah, so then you're gonna take the that 6.5, you're gonna subtract 5.25, you're gonna get 1.25, and then you're gonna divide that by the opening price, so 5.25, and you could see by moving the decimal 2 places that it would have ran 23.8% by the time it got to 650. So 650 area is a good potential idea to start in, but it might not get there. So we're just watching this for now. And then let's see if ALQA, nothing. It just came down a little. SOLO, nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this. If anything starts to happen, I'll continue recording. You can see ADIL just made it to the, well, it was on the top gainers, but it just popped up to the top of it because it's up 63% now. Well, it's to the top of it with volume because I've sorted by volume to see what's more significant and what people are looking at. So yeah, sorted by volume, ADIL, sorry, is spiking now because it broke the previous day high of 430 area. What was it exactly? Yeah, it was 426 the previous day high. So so it broke that, and let's see what it can do. But right now this is no play because it's a low float and it just broke the previous day high. So we got to see how it reacts, and then gotta see. But I think this, if it consolidates, it can get ugly for shorts. So I'm not touching that. Look at the volume. Look at that volume coming in on the open. Very nice. So, and that's a 1 minute chart. That volume is massive. I've seen more volume than this, but it's nice to see this. You got 650,000 shares in one candle, 720,000 shares, 890,000 shares. So these three candles are big volume. So if this cracks here under this level, then all these bag holders are going to be selling into it. So if it cracks there, it could fail pretty hard, and it has that failed breakout if it does, but it has a bunch of support here. That's not really the play. I really want this to continue running more. This was not on my watch, was it? No. So I want this to continue running more, obviously for a few days or a day, to see what it does. So yeah. TNXP still didn't spike enough. Gotta see. I need it to spike. I don't want to just. You don't want to take a low odds setup just because you're there for it, but it needs to spike more. Still checking if I have shares. I don't have anything available. Pausing. People are telling me they like my TNXP plan. I mean, I like TNXP too. If only there was shares. And if only it spiked enough. So I just realized that TradeNet does have shares to short and on TNXP, but now only thing we're looking for is a spike to start that short. But yeah, with TradeNet, I don't suggest put a lot of money into it. It's a little shady, but I like their level 2, and I like that they have shares once in a while, but they're not very often. Oh man, what happened? So I can't really figure out how to show this whole box here without showing my account number, so I'm chopping it off. But TNXP still did nothing really, and we're still just gonna wait and stalk for that spike. If it begins to spike, I don't want it to grind up. I want a nice spike to 730, 740. That's a good potential starter, but I don't want this slow grinding action that we see. Yeah, so I'm gonna pause it until something significant happens. Really, we can see ADIL. It's still holding up, and it's up 67%. And I am not thinking of shorting this anytime soon, based on the price action. It's holding bases very well. It's consolidating every chance it gets, and it's not really a high odds play. If it starts to fail the breakout, then it could work out. But yeah, I'm not gonna look at that really. It's not interesting to me yet. Give it a few days. Here we see AYTU moved up on the gainers. Let's check it out. It'll open on this window, I think. Yeah. So nothing really from here. I don't see any resistance levels that are important. Nothing really important resistance levels, so let's try to get a better sense here. No. Nope. No resistance levels really to short into. It it could end up running, but nothing I'm interested in. If it does end up running for a few days, then maybe a potential short. See, this has volume here, but it wouldn't have spiked enough by the time it gets to 150. From here, it's not really a good short, so it really needs to overextend on the daily chart. So TNXP looks like it's just gonna fall apart here. It's not a play if it does, but it cracked this support level so far. But if it recovers, it can run. Also, it has this little support level from pre-market. I don't think it's significant, but if this thing is just trapping shorts, then I'll be happy, because if it gets a nice spike, then that's the opportunity. So let's see how this acts here, because it's not good, not looking good, but it could recover, and it might be confusing that I'm looking for it to recover, but I want it to recover so that I can get a good setup. Let's try to get some level 2 on this so we see how the action is. Very low volume, 200,000 volume. I thought it was just gonna fall apart here. Oh, some sellers coming in, but we have it's just chop. The level 2 is not really gonna tell you much in 200,000 shares of volume, but just use it as a guide if it's gonna crack or not. We'll see, but we'll see. I'll press play. I'll record again if something important happens. Okay, so this thing looks like it's really trying to crack here. But I'm gonna give it time because we want that spike. But if it cracks here, it would be a good lesson just to watch the level 2, see how it's acting. But this is it's kind of killing the opportunity I'm looking for. So right now we're looking at the $6 area. How's that gonna react? Because it's a whole dollar. It's a momentum indicator. We need to see how it reacts, how the bid is acting, if the sellers are piling in. We need to see how everybody's reacting to that whole dollar, and that'll give us a better edge on where we think this is going to be going. I wasn't trying to make this video too long, but it is what it is. This is how you get live action in your videos. And the thing with pre-market videos or market open videos is I might have to end up scrapping the whole thing and deleting it if nothing happens, you know what I mean? Because people don't want to watch market consolidation. They want to see the action, So we got to see how this is reacting. I still think the volume's way too light for anything to happen. I'm hoping it surges in volume and starts spiking more. But yeah, I mean, so far when you get a crack like this, you expect a panic to really set in right away. But so far we don't know yet. We want to see how this 6 reacts. Now look, you see the 6 is holding on the bidders, but that doesn't mean buy it, because there's a lot of times they're fake and there's somebody just trying to hold it up. But if 6 holds like it has been holding, then we could see some important reversal here. And look, this action right here, it's important to look at, because if you're short, I mean, I don't know why. I don't think anybody should be shorting on this break here, but we'll see how it rewards them. So far 6 is holding. So if it starts to fail at 6, then I'll come back, and if it starts to spike, I'll also come back. But right now, honestly, just keep in mind that this stock is going to stay like this for a few minutes at least. I know that. It could even end up not moving for the rest of its time, but that's why you have a watch list. You have a few plays to look at, and you categorize what's important, and if it doesn't work out, then you just wait for the next play. One thing to note about ADIL, and this is for the long side, not the short side. I mean, I guess you could use it for the short side to tell you that you shouldn't be shorting here, but you get this run up, and it's still holding over this consolidation level, and it's a $4 whole dollar. You got this action where it's keeps trying to come down and just keeps recovering, keeps trying to break out, keeps failing. you could consider this a base to buy, risking the 4 area or even the 380, but you could see also that since the morning it spiked from 350 to 480, and then it came down and it's holding roughly half its spike. So when it holds half its spike, it has a chance of making more upside, or at least it's telling you that, hey, it's basing, and if you're short, you should be possibly covering, or you shouldn't be shorting if it in this area. But yeah, so that's my what I see here on ADIL. So as it turned out, like as we realized before, that the 650 area on TIK would be that around 25% spot where after the market open, like it spiked to for a potential starter. So my adjustment to that plan is going to be look to start in near 630 area. Ultimate risk is 7 till I get resistance to lower risk. So that's my adjustment for this, because you realize that we realized that the 25% area would be it would be like 23% at 650. So that's not enough. I mean, you could kind of give yourself the reasoning that this is your new risk and you could be shorting in this area, but it's not the setup that's tested and it's very low volume, so not really ideal. You got to stick to the best setups, and that's how you increase your odds of success. We can see this sort of curling up, and after that bottom here, if it faked that it was going to crack this previous low a little bit, and then it regained, and now it's pushing a little bit. It's not really a significant push yet, but it could turn into one, especially because of the float. 6.5 million is what I have, but you get these stocks with inaccurate floats and whatever, but it's still holding these highs. This high from yesterday, it's still holding that base and this base and the initial morning like perk. So we gotta see. Oh, here we go, some volume coming in. It's coming up towards that high 4 area, mid 4 area. So 450 again, you got that $0.50. Let's see if it plays any significance. And so far there's it's just over under real quick. We got to see which side kind of takes the power, where do the buyers step in, and it looks like the buyers are stepping in. Holy crap, here we go. That's a quick perk out of this. And I mean, are you shorting at this fake crack? Are you going to sit through this if you did that? That's a terrible idea. So you always want to be shorting mostly into strength, and if you get this crack and it's like failing and then you get a pop, that's where you can start in. You don't want to start in on that first thing. So now look at this. It's testing that high. Can I break it? We got to see. We got some sellers here. Not really significant, so it looks like it could do something, but we got these we keep getting these morning spikes that fail here. So this could be something to look at, because if you've been seeing that initial morning spike, then that second push fail, and you've been shorting that every single time, this if it starts running, this could be like the one that's teaching you the lesson. So that type of strategy where you just short is not really a great strategy. You need to test every single setup, and you need to test how often it works out. Not just 5 setups, many. Not just 5 examples, many examples, like, of the same setup. So you get this, if you track this 100 times and it fails 3 of the times, you don't want to be shorting that, So this, so far, it is failing, but we've also been seeing that these start basing after the failed breakout, and then they do that one more perk yesterday. One more perk after that. Let's see if it did it yesterday. Yesterday we had the morning spike, halt. It wasn't really the morning, it was delayed, but you got this push, and then it pulled back, and it tried to make a second push. It never made a new high, but then it failed. So, so far, it didn't really make a new high, but it failed. So far, it's making a new high today and kind of failing. So we got to see, is it going to fail or is it really going to run? TNXB never gave an entry. It's still coming down or just holding where it is. TIK never given entry yet, but if it breaks this high, it's perking right now. So if it breaks this high, it can start running and give a nice potential short into like the low sixes. ALQA, nothing. Tried perking, not enough volume. 383,000 volume, not enough. ADIL holding up, not a short, not a long to me, but it could run. So I'll leave that to the people that like buying. If you're testing the setup and you're comfortable with it, then that's completely okay to buy it. But for me, not comfortable with that setup, and I'm not tracking it, so I'm gonna avoid. Look at that TNXP is cracking. Well, it did crack, and it's coming down a little bit, but you don't want to take this as a wrong lesson and say now I should start shorting at the lows, because that's not really the strategy that we're looking for. We're looking for that push. We want that overextension. We want that fear in people, you know. That's what really makes this setup high odds. So just because this is failing now, I'm not like, even though that was the only ticker I had shares for, I'm not kicking myself. I'm not pissed about it. This is just the stock market. You need to get used to it if you're not. Here we have another perk out of TIK. It held a little bit over 5, and then now we got this perk going. So we got to see when it starts to get tired, if it gets to our levels that we want, which is that 630, 650 area. That's the levels. Those are the levels that we need to keep in mind. So if this like is up here 560, are you thinking like, let me short right now? Because that's not really the setup again. If it fails hard here and then it proves again that that's the resistance, then you could make sort of an idea to short it, but that's not what I look for personally. Yeah, so unless this breaks, I'm pausing this. If it breaks, I'm continuing. So what I think is gonna happen is, once I post this video, after nothing spiking and nothing giving a short opportunity, once I post it, that's when everything's gonna start going into those resistance levels that I'm looking at. But you know, this is just like, this is the market, and I'm gonna try to record it as best as I can, and when I get a good recording, that's when it'll benefit you. But right now this is just consolidation, and this is good because it is teaching you patience and what you should be doing when the plays are not acting how they should. But yeah, like, I don't have shares for most of my plays. I'm not shorting early for the ones that are not ready yet, and I'm not buying some random stock just because my short opportunities didn't set up yet. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking right now. And if this sets up, then I'm gonna get some good footage. But if not, we're learning patience today. Come on, TIK, look at this. Nothing is giving an entry. It's a little frustrating, but you know, you gotta deal with it, and you really gotta make sure you're not just forcing things when stuff like this happens. If you've tested this setup where it failed twice on this gap up short without running that 20-25%, then you could take this. You know, if you tested that the support crack here should have high odds, then you could take it. But that's not what I'm testing. That's not what I'm looking at. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna end this video because there's really nothing setting up. There's no volume. ADIL is just holding, consolidating. Everything's just trapping on both sides. TNXP didn't give an opportunity. So I'm just gonna end this video. Thank you for watching, and if you ever have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter. You can comment down under this video. There's multiple ways, and I'll just answer to the best of my ability. So thanks for watching again, and make sure you trade safe. Make sure you're always patient in your trading, and I will make another future video which will be shorter on the market open, and hopefully I get something that's more action. And I'm also planning on making a video to show how I get my patience and where I learned it from, and what tips to improve your own patience. So again, thanks for watching.